Recording is in progress. All right. Okay. Yeah, I almost forgot about this. But Stephen has the wheel tonight, so I feel better.
Um, can you give me share screen powers? Because I'll be
Oh, can
showing
I
a
do
chart.
that? Share settings, host, share settings, maintain, enter settings, choose individual share all windows, main button, preview. Well, I don't know. Do you know how to do that?
Let's see. Possibly under participants, there might be a way, or like if you hover over my name and go to more. If not that, then the bottom middle, there's a share button, and that might give you some options to enable that.
I can share my stuff. Here's some optimizing. Would it be nice if everybody could share stuff?
I can also email this file to you, and then you can
Okay,
share in
how
here.
about we can go at it that way? All right.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
I'm going to
let's
pause the
see.
video for the recording for a second. Pause recording. All right. It's all you.
Okay, so contract verbs is a euphonic thing. So what we're dealing with is not really something to do with the meaning of verbs, but this is a detail having to do with sound. So this is a little bit like in English, um, we have the word a, like a cat, but then an, like an apple. And a and an mean the same thing, but depending on whether the next word starts with a vowel or a consonant, we use either a or an. So euphonic, eu is Greek for good, and then phonic is Greek for sound or voice. So what is going to sound good? So contract verbs are about making things sound better from the Greek perspective. So, for example, the verb to love, the before you attach any of the endings for who's doing the loving, is agapa. I'll write that in chat so you can see that written out. So without any endings, which so you wouldn't actually see it, like this, because you'd always see it with some ending to indicate who's doing it. But in theory, the word for love is agapa. And then also in theory, not in practice, as we'll see, the word for I love would be agapao. Um, but it's not. The word for I love is actually agapo. Um, and so what's happening is that ending from the Greek vantage point was felt to be too long, so they contract the ending. They make it shorter and smaller. In the chart, this that I pulled this off the internet somewhere. It's not mine, but under the column where there's the plus sign, um, those three things there, alpha, epsilon, omicron, those are three possible vowels that you might have at the end of a verb minus its ending. So I gave the example of agapa, where it ends with an alpha. And so for a verb like agapao, um, to get agapo, you would see where the alpha is and then track it to the right underneath the omega. Because if in this example, we're adding the first person singular ending, I love, which is O. Remember, Lu O, I loose or destroy versus Lu A, Slew A, and so on. So the omega for I do something, um, plus the alpha from the verb. When you put those two things together, what you get is omega. So in this case, the alpha just dropped out. So instead of agapao, it's agapo. We just dropped an alpha. So we made it shorter. Sometimes what can happen is not strictly shorter, but different. So with this agapa, kind of we call it a stem, which is like the sort of the basic part of the verb, but one you'd never actually see because you always see some sort of a suffix on it. So agapa is the stem, ending in an alpha. Now, suppose we were going to say he loves. Now, the ending lu o, lu ace, lu a, he loves is a, which epsilon iota, which is the third column from the left, or it's the second column if you're detaching the endings part of it. So yes, the epsilon iota. So there's the ending for he loves. And in theory, not in practice, you would think he loves would be agape, but that is too long for the Greek ear. So instead of that, you get agapa, and I don't remember how to quickly, there's a way I could do it, but it would take longer. I don't remember how to quickly type an iota subscript, so you'll just have to use your imagination. That last thing I typed, imagine there's an iota subscript under the alpha, which is what you see in the chart.
Question.
Yep.
Is there any at all pronunciation difference when you have iota subscript at all?
No. It's just it's a helpful tip. So it's kind of like in English. Bear with me a second. I gotta switch my keyboard.
Because it would sound agapa, or in this case, it might sound agape, but there's going to be no difference.
Iota subscript does not change the pronunciation.
All right.
But it can change the meaning. So an English example of that kind of thing would be like this, where those three words sound the same, but the spelling clues you in that it's a different meaning intended. And so likewise, in some cases you might have a word that ends in some cases you might have a verb that ends in an eta, say, without an iota subscript. And we haven't covered this yet, though we've mentioned it. The subjunctive verbs, which are like, should it be the case that if something happens, or in order that this may happen, rather than just a simple statement, this happened. In subjunctive verbs, one of the common endings you'll see a lot is an eta with no iota subscript. On the other hand, sometimes in a indicative verb, not subjunctive, you'll see eta with an iota subscript because it's a contraction. So, right, or just about in the middle of the chart, you'll see an eta with an iota subscript, which is a contraction from epsilon. So all that to say, the iota subscript does not change the pronunciation. But it can be a clue sometimes as to meaning. It's maybe a little clearer example would be with nouns. In nouns, the dative case will often have an iota subscript, and that can be really helpful for identifying the meaning. Like there would be a word. So when I type these without iota subscripts, they'll look the same. So Adolphe. These obviously sound the same, but supposing in the second example, the second Adolphe there, suppose there was an iota subscript under that last letter, then the meaning would be to a sister or for a sister, because that would be the dative case ending. Whereas without an iota subscript, it's the nominative case. Sister is doing something. That's the subject of the clause. Contract verbs. So there are three possible ways for a verb stem to end. It could end with an alpha, like the example agapao, to love. It could end with an epsilon, or it can end with an omicron. And then there are various possible endings that are suffixes that it might encounter. The stem ending might encounter. And so that's the other series of columns: epsilon, epsilon iota, eta, eta with iota subscript, omicron, omicron upsilon diphthong, or omega. And this chart shows the various possibilities. Now, alternatively, you can Google and you can Google verb contractions in ancient Greek and find explanations. If the chart is not your thing, when you Google it, you will find like rule sets. Like, for example, if an omicron is, or if like an O class vowel is involved somewhere, the O class vowel for some reason is very strong, and so it has this way of sort of like prevailing over other forms. The bottom, there's always some kind of, whether it's an omega or whether it's omicron, it's always there somewhere, because the omicron ending of the stem just means there's always going to be some kind of O thing going on, versus like the alpha row, where the stem vowel is alpha. You see a whole lot of alpha going on, maybe with an iota subscript, until you get to if omicron is added. The next one over to the right. If you're adding an omicron to alpha, then you get omega. Or if you're adding an omicron upsilon to alpha, you get an omega. Or if you're adding an omega to an alpha, you get an omega. So again, this is not the most exciting kind of stuff, but this is a matter of recognizing, what's going on. I think maybe one of the more confusing ones might be the second and third person singular verbs. So, for example, let's say that you're saying, you love the brothers, and the instinct would be to say agapa ace, but you won't see that in the New Testament. Instead, what you will see is agapas with an iota subscript after that last alpha, agapas. And if you look at the chart here, it's the alpha row, and then going over to the A ending. In this case, because it's second person singular, there's also a sigma, but that does not affect it. The important point is that there's that epsilon iota portion of the suffix. So the you love is not agapaes, it's agapas. And so knowing on the one hand how to say that, or maybe more important for our purposes in trying to read the Bible, recognizing when you see a form like agapas, you might at first be kind of stumped. What is that? I don't know about that os ending for a verb. You might think, is it some kind of noun or something? And that's not going to make sense in the sentence if the meaning is you love. But the iota subscript there under that last alpha would be a clue. It's not an accusative plural. It's a it's a second person verb with contraction that's happened. Any questions?
There'll be a quiz on this next week.
Yep. Any failure to succeed, and you have to run 3 laps around the church building.
Speaking of next week, I am out, so probably 2 weeks. And at some point, if we want to take a little summer break, we might want to do that. Just see kind of how it rolls. But for right now, let's say 2 weeks. That sounds good to everybody.
Yeah. This is not the place to start. Contract verbs are not the place to start with the Greek. If you're still working on nailing down like luo, lues, lue, luamen, lueta, luusi, those endings, or like the noun endings, anthropos, anthropou, anthropo, anthropon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, if you have those things, if you have those things down, then look up in your text, whatever textbook you're using, they will have a chapter or part of a chapter on contract verbs, or contractions, they might say. And you'll find some kind of chart and some kind of explanation, and you can work on trying to at least be pretty familiar. Maybe not, know every possible permutation right off the top of your head, but be familiar with how it works. If you're not super comfortable with the oase, aminata, usi, and all that, then I would say put this on the back burner, something to come back to later.
Do we have a text that we could look at that we could play with some of these contractions?
Yeah, let's see. Should not be hard to find.
I'm going to try to secure a website if I can. Let's see if I can minimize this. I cannot minimize the workplace. Or what if I want?
I may be able to just copy paste here.
Oh, yeah. Into the chat, and then I should be able to pull up a page, right?
Or a link to share. Either that, or I can just copy the words into the chat. Like, so for example, let's see. So from John chapter 1, let's see. I'm just jumping around looking for examples. Here's let's see if I can do this here. It'll let me select. Why is it not letting me select? All right, let me try a different website real quick. Almost there. Oops. Still trying to typing in Greek. That's not what we want here. All right, John 1:15. So the first part, this is kind of what I went to John chapter 1, and what I first caught as far as contract verbs comes from. Sorry, the text came out black. Hopefully you can see that. Ioannes marturei peri autou. Can you guys see that in your chat boxes? Ioannes marturei peri autou. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, so this is John testifies concerning him. Ioannes, John, marturei testifies peri concerning autou, him. Autou is genitive because peri is a preposition, happens to take a genitive. Now, our word here we're interested is marturei, and marturei is the stem ends in epsilon. So if there were no contraction, we would have marturei et. Marturei et, martu It's hard to even say. Marture. If there weren't contraction, it would be
John, he witnessed. Okay. All right. So the third person there. All right.
yeah.
So
So the second word there in this example is a contract verb. If there were not contraction, it would look like this. Marture. Instead, it's marture. And you might, maybe from this example, you can kind of imagine how this would happen. Marture is kind of a mouthful. And so marture is just tightening things up a little bit. Or let's see. I think this. Let's see. In verse 26, he says, I baptize you with water, and I baptize baptizo. The stem is with a. Actually, I'm trying to remember if the stem is with an alpha or not. I think it's with an omicron, baptizao. But the thing is, you would never see that. You would never see baptizao. You see baptizo because the ao ending contracts and becomes just o.
yeah, cool.
So yeah, things to be alert of. Again, I'm just repeating points, jumping with any questions. We're tightening things up or we're shortening. Sometimes it's simply dropping something out, like the alpha we keep seeing. That's quite a common case where the alpha simply drops out. Sometimes it's a little bit of a transformation, same number of syllables, but a transformation where a I it would have been better to have an example prepared, obviously, but a stem that ends in epsilon, a stem that ends in epsilon, and then if you were going to make it third person singular, where you add the a ending, well, I guess that or let's see. If you were gonna add the first person ending to an epsilon stem, the ending you would get is omega. I guess that's another case of just dropping, you could say. So sometimes the contract verbs just kind of drop out. Sometimes they sort of transform. And there is an inner logic to it. It's not just random. But it can take some practice to get a hang of it. This is not something that the ancient Greeks would have had to think about. They just do it.
It's a lot like English. I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of what we do just because we naturally know it.
yeah,
Yeah.
So in a difference between, I guess in this respect, a difference between Greek and English is that in English, for the most part, we don't write these things out. But in Greek they do. So in English we actually contract all the time, but we don't usually write it. So like instead of saying like don't you have work tonight, we would say like don't you have work tonight? Don't you? So don't you in English contracts to don't you. But the
C
difference is we don't write that out. We just
CHA.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So the Greek system is, from one perspective, it's more difficult because these endings and things, but from another perspective, it's sort of kinder because they wrote it in the contracted way, and so
What is the dictionary form called? I mean, I know that there's a certain form that you look it up
so
in
the
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 dictionary.
yeah,
Like
it's just
baptiza would probably be the dictionary form, but what's that called again?
that is called the lexical form,
The lexical form.
and so yeah, I think omicron is the stem vowel, but
Mm,
I'm not.
that's a
So
good.
the second
Well,
example, agapao,
yeah.
where it's alpha omega, that is the lexical form. So in most Greek lexicons, um, or that's what you would look up as agapao. Or if you're using like logos or something and you hover your mouse over some form, agapes, agape. Um,
Agapao would be the first person, right?
yeah, yeah. Well,
Is that the lexical form?
the lexical form would be agapao.
Okay.
So that's the form that in most dictionaries you look up. Any form of he loves, we love, you love, they love, anything like that, the dictionary is going to list all those things under agapao. That's the lexical form. But you'll never see agapao actually in the Bible. What you'll see is agapo, the
Right.
third thing that I
Oh,
typed there in chat.
so literally they're going to spell it the alpha omega
Yes,
as
yes,
lexical form, but you never see
yes,
it that way. Okay,
yes.
interesting.
The reason for that is that knowing that the stem vowel is alpha, when you look it up like a pow, then you can be like, so that means if it's going to be a second person verb, then it would be agapa with an iota subscript. Whereas if the stem vowel was epsilon and it was a second person, you do something, then it would be something something a with an epsilon iota ending.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's agapo is the form you actually see in the Bible because it's
Is
been
there a
contracted. It's like a real living thing. Agapao is like the theoretical form.
is there
That
a category for epsilon, iota, sigma?
Yeah, yes. It is the column epsilon iota.
Okay,
It's exactly the same, just stick on a
same.
sigma if appropriate.
Okay, yeah, because like sometimes like here we might say you familiar, uh,
Hmm.
and that would be like an ace
Hmm.
type ending, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Or
Or this also in this chart where you see the eta and the eta with subscript, you will also encounter those with sigmas at the end for certain of the subjunctive verb forms.
Mhm.
And you would use the same contraction table. You would just add on the sigma if it's a second person verb.
Okay. All righty. We are in the 10-minute mark, boys. So any questions? I get
There's
the
none.
overall idea. I think we're going to run into this fairly frequently as we look at verses here and there. It's like, yeah, there's a contraction.
Yes.
So it'll take a while for it to stick. I hope it comes by osmosis personally.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and that is that
I
is that is one way you
I
can
take
do it.
this chart and sleep on it, and in the
Yeah,
morning I hope it's all locked in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's also the case that at least once you've been exposed to the basic idea of it,
Yeah,
if you
it's a
just
good
read your
chart.
Greek New Testament a lot and just keep on seeing these contracted forms in practice in action,
Hmm.
if you just see it a lot, it'll start to seep in like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
like a pass
yeah.
you love.
Hey, Stephen, I got
Yep.
another question for you.
Mhm.
In this last baptized in John 1:26, which one is the actual form that's going to be in the New Testament? Is the second one?
For baptize,
Yeah.
the
Like,
one you will actually see in the New Testament is baptizo.
okay.
The last one I typed, baptizao, would be the
Mhm.
lexical form, the
Yeah.
dictionary entry.
All right.
right, any other questions? All right, look for you guys in about 2 weeks. We might look at the future, because that's an easy one. And see how these things work out. I will try to email this chart to everybody so you have your own copy of it. That would be kind of nice. So, all right, guys, any other questions? Stephen, thank you for the
Yep.
evening. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep.
And well, over time, hopefully this will start to soak in a little bit. Hey, thanks a lot. I'm gonna stop share and we are back to us. So if there's nothing else, so say good night, everybody, and have a great evening.
Good night.
All right, take care.
See you guys.
Right.